Good morning, Ma. Can you hear me? Just respond on the chat. Okay, thank you. I hope whatever we have covered until now, is it clear with you? Whatever we have covered until now, is it clear with you? Is 6U in the class? 6U in the class? Okay. Can you tell me what is the role of a DBA 6U? Role of DBA 6U? Six L, 6L, '61, 61. So if at all we ask some questions, you're just leaving the meeting. Yeah, 61. What is the role of DBA? Responsible for everything in the sense? You're right regarding to DB. Any specific application? Like backup? Okay, good. Updates? Fine, good. 6J, can you continue, ma? 6J. Is 6J here? Yeah, can you continue with the other responsibilities? Granting of authorization, 6U, good, good. Manages everything related to database, fine. So why you are coming up this much slowly? U, J. DBA is responsible for taking the database backup periodically. Fine, good. '7D, how do I represent weak entity set? '7D. It doesn't have a key attribute, fine, but how we are representing it in ER model? How we are representing that in ER model? Right. Okay. Now, so going with the continuation of what we have done in the previous class, we completed the basics of ER model along with an example. I hope you understood the example also. Was the example clear, ma? Were you able to find out all the entities, attributes, relationships? I think I've given a small example for you, and I've asked you to find out what are the different kinds of attributes. All that stuff related to ER model was given to you. Okay, so today's class we'll talk something related to EER, which stands for Enhanced ER Model, or it can be said as Extended ER Model. In that, we'll be studying something called as generalization, specialization, and aggregation. We'll be talking about generalization, specialization, and aggregation. Okay, so this comes under the concept of EER, and it talks something related to abstraction. Okay, so generalization, specialization, and aggregation in ER model are used for data abstraction. You already know what data abstraction is. We have already spoken about this, and to make it simple, it is used to hide details. Okay, so we'll start with the concept of generalization first. Generalization is a process of extracting common properties from a set of entities. Generalization is the process of extracting common properties from a set of entities and create a generalized entity from it. Okay, so in order to make it simple, you are given with one or more entities, and in those entities, there are some common properties, which is nothing but attributes. So you have some common properties from those entities, then we can create a generalized entity from it. We can create a generalized entity from it. That is the concept of your generalization. And this process is called as a bottom-up approach. It is called as a bottom-up approach in which two or more entities can be generalized into a higher level entity. Two or more entities can be generalized into a higher level entity if at all they have some common attributes. So when is this possible is when you have common attributes for the two entities, then only this particular process is applicable or it is not applicable. Okay, so it is indirectly talking about your subclass and superclass mechanism. It's talking about your subclass and superclass mechanism. So as an example, I'll take a student and a faculty entity, which can be generalized into a person entity. I'm talking about a student and a faculty entity, which can be generalized into a higher level entity, which is called as a person entity. It's clearly given in the diagram. See, I clearly told you that it is a bottom-up approach. It goes from the subclass level to the superclass level. So from the bottom, it goes to the top, and the relationship is mentioned using is a relationship. So this is the concept is a. So here I told you I'm taking a faculty entity and I'm taking a student entity. I'm taking a faculty entity over here and student entity, which are the two subclass entities, which can be generalized into a superclass entity, which is called as a person entity. Now, what are the common attributes of faculty and student are? Every faculty has an address, every faculty has a name. Every student has an address, every student has a name. So the common attributes are given to the superclass entity. Okay, the common attributes are given to a superclass entity. Now, what is happening with respect to this is whenever I want to convert this particular faculty into a relational model, whenever I want to convert this faculty into a relational model, then these two attributes can be added into faculty because faculty is a person, student is a person. Faculty, it is read as this way. Faculty is a person because it is a bottom-up approach. Faculty is a person, student is a person. The attributes with respect to student would be, student will have an attribute called S_fee, P_name, and P_address. P_name and P_address. Okay, so in this case, common attributes like P_name and P_address become part of the higher entity. So P_address and P_name are the common attributes with respect to faculty and student. Hence, they become the attributes of the higher level entity, which is nothing but person. And the attributes which are uncommon, with respect to faculty and student will stay with them. This is the concept of your generalization. Okay. Next, there's something called as specialization, which is exactly opposite to that of your generalization. So when I was talking about generalization, I told you it is a bottom-up approach. Now, whenever I talk about specialization, it is a top-down approach. And here an entity is divided into sub-entities. An entity is divided into sub-entities based on their characteristics. An entity is divided into sub-entities based on its based on their characteristics. Okay, so what is happening over here is a higher level entity is divided into two or more lower level entities, and this is represented in this way. I told you it is top-down approach, so it is going this way. Top-down approach. Here I have a higher level entity called as employee, and I have two lower level entities called tester as well as developer. There's one entity called tester, there is another entity called developer. Now, tester and developer are specialized versions of employee. So here, how do I read this is, tester is a specialized version of employee, or employee is a tester. Since I'm going with top-down approach, I can say that employee is a tester, employee is a developer. So both in some sense are similar, but one is bottom-up approach and the second one is top-down. In generalization, first I'll be working with lower level entities and then forming the higher level entity. And in specialization, I'll be working with higher level entity, and based on the characteristics, I'll be working with the lower level entities. So employee is a tester, and the tester will be having three attributes over here. One is the test type, salary, and name. Then I say employee is a developer. Developer will be having two attributes over here. One is the salary and the other one is a e-name. Okay. So example, employee entity is an employee management system which can be specialized into developer and tester. So whenever I'm talking about a simple application called employee management system, I have found out employee to be an entity. I have found out employee to be an entity, and which can be further divided, which can be further specialized into two more entities, which is called as developer and tester, as shown in the figure. In this case, what are all the common attributes, which is nothing but name and salary of the employee, become part of the higher entity, which is nothing but employee, and specialized attributes like test type become part of the specialized entities, which is the tester in this particular case. Is it clear, ma? Is it clear what is generalization and what is specialization? You have any problem with both the things? Please put it on the chat. What is generalization? Yes? All of you, ma? Whoever is in the class? So generalization is top down or bottom up? Generalization is top down or bottom up? Okay. Okay. Now see, I'm taking a small example. So I've put something called as before generalization over here. So it's before I actually perform generalization mechanism over here. I have a student with three attributes: name, address, grade. I have student with three attributes: name, address, grade, and I have an entity called teacher with name, address, salary. Now, what would be this after I perform generalization? What would be this after I perform generalization? Try to think of it. What would be the generalized version of student and teacher? Bottom up is fine. Common entities will be name and address. Fine, good, Satvika. Name and address become the entities of person. Fine, good. Right? So do you mean to say that person becomes the superclass entity? Yes? Okay. So after generalization, see, I do not have the arrows over here, but I'm just trying to explain. Student is a person. Student is a person, wherein person becomes a topmost entity, which is the superclass entity or super entity, which has address and name. So person entity properties are address and name. Student would be having an attribute called grade, and teacher would be having an attribute called salary. So student is a person, teacher is a person. That is the concept of generalization. Okay, is it clear? So talking about generalization and specialization, is it clear? No. See, I've clearly told you, generalization is more like subclass and superclass system. But the only difference is the approach. How you are working with is the difference. So you are working with the concept of subclass and superclass as you do in your OOPS, right? And in generalization, entities are combined to form a more generalized entity. In generalization, entities are combined to form a more generalized entity. Okay. So this is a briefing about your generalization and specialization. Next, talking about the third one, I'm talking about something called as aggregation. So the third EER feature is aggregation, and it is a process in which a single entity alone is not able to make sense. So whenever you feel like a single entity does not make any sense in a relationship, so the relationship between two entities acts as an entity over here. So the relationship between two entities acts as one entity. In order to make it simple, I have written one more definition. Aggregation is a process when a relation between two entities is treated as a single entity. So what is aggregation? It is a process in which the relation between two entities is treated as a single entity. Okay, so look at the diagram. I have three entities over here. I have three entities over here. One is center, the other one is course, and the other one is visitor. So what's happening over here? See, if at all I remove the concept of course over here, I remove the concept of course. So visitor enquires center. If at all I write like visitor enquires center, why he is visiting the center, it is not clear, or center alone is not able to give a clear definition of what actually it has. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to work with a relation over here. Center offers course. Center offers course. Visit, which is visited by a visitor. A center is offering a course which is visited by a visitor. Now, what I'm trying to do is this particular relationship, I'm trying to convert into an entity using the concept of aggregation. So what does aggregation do is it treats a relationship between two entities as a single entity. So center offers course is a relationship which is treated as a single entity. See, I have put a bigger rectangle over here. Now this becomes a single entity and visitor enquires this particular entity. I can say that center course is this particular entity. I can rename this if required, or else I can put it in the same way. So I'll say this is center course. Now visitor enquires center course. So instead of having two relationships over here, I'll be working with only one relationship over here. So visitor enquires this particular entity, and this particular concept is called as your aggregation. See, in the diagram above, the relationship between center and course together is acting as an entity. So the relationship between center and course. Center and course. What is the relationship that is existing? It is offer. Center offers course is a relationship which is treated as a single entity, which is in relationship with another entity called visitor. So this particular concept over here is in relationship with something called as visitor, with the name of the relationship as enquire. So visitor enquire this particular entity. Okay, now in the real world, if a visitor or a student visits a coaching center, she will never inquire about the center only or just about the course. Rather, she will inquire about both. So what is the concept? What is the concept over here is when a visitor tries to visit a center which is offering a course, a visitor trying to visit a center which is offering a course, the visitor will not be interested in center alone or course alone, but he would be interested in both the things. So which center is offering which course would be of interest by the visitor, but he would not be interested in the center where it is located or the course, which course is being given. So that is the place in this kind of scenarios, I'll be using the concept of aggregation. in this kind of scenarios, I'll be using the concept of aggregation. Just go through the slide once. If at all you have any questions, you ask. Is it clear, ma? EER, extended ER model. We are talking about three things over there, and already we have talked about key constraints. So what is generalization, what is specialization, and what is aggregation? These are the three concepts. Is it clear? Can you please respond, or is there a confusion? Most of the times you get confused with generalization and specialization. Just try to understand. One is bottom up, the other one is top down. And once you understand any particular concept, either generalization or specialization, it would be easy for you to understand. And once you are clear with these things, you need to convert the ER models into relational model. So the next job on hand would be the database design, which you have done using the concept of ER model, needs to be converted into your relational model, which is nothing but the concept of rows and columns. Any questions in all these three concepts, ma? Any questions? Kindly put it in the chat bot, ma, if you understood or no. So can I ask you, what is aggregation? What is aggregation? Any one of you, what is aggregation? Relation between two entities is treated as one. In what kind of scenarios? What kind of scenarios? Yes, good. Can you give the scenario? What kind of scenarios, ma? Okay, fine. So I hope you got the three concepts. Now moving on to the next topic. We'll talk something about cardinality ratio with respect to relationship. We'll talk about something called as cardinality ratio, and it is the number of relationship instances that an entity can participate in. It is the number of relationship instances that an entity can participate in, or expresses the number of entities to which other entity can be related. That is with respect to a relationship. So what is the number of entities to which another entity can be related via a relationship is called as your cardinality ratio, or you can say that it is cardinality mapping. So both are the same. Now you have got 4 different kinds of cardinality ratios. The first one is 1 to 1. The second one, 1 to many to 1, and many to many. So whenever you're working with 1 to 1, you're just representing it using your digit 1-1. Whenever you have many, you're putting it as M. But only in the last case, many to many, you can have it as M to M, no issues. But sometimes you might get confused. That is the reason we are working with different symbolics, M to N. Whenever I'm talking about many to many, it is many to N, M to N. Okay. Now, talking about what is 1 to 1 with respect to a relationship. When every entity of the first entity set can be related to at most one entity of the second entity set. Here, I'm talking with respect to at most. So the maximum is 1. I'm not talking about minimum over here. So whenever entity of the first entity set can be related to at most one entity of the second entity set and vice versa. The reverse is also true. Then it is called as 1 to 1 mapping. Then it is called as 1 to 1 mapping. Okay. The representation is as given in the diagram. So this is E1 is the first entity, second entity set, and the relation is named by R. So these might be the attributes. I've just taken one attribute over here. So E1 has an attribute B, E2 has an attribute C. E1 and E2 are related with respect to a relationship R. Okay. Now, whenever you want to show the concept of 1 to 1 mapping, you're putting an directed edge towards the entity from the relationship. So here I've put a directed edge. In the previous cases, we never used any edges while we were working with relationships. Now, since we are into the cardinality mapping, now here I can say that here I have a directed edge. And if at all you do not want to work with directed edge, on the line or link, you can put a number 1. On the line, you can put a number 1 in order to represent that it is 1 to 1 mapping. Okay. So as an example, I can say that I'll be working with 2 entities. One is citizen is one entity, has is a relationship, and then I'll say passport. Okay, can this be a 1-to-1 relationship? Try to understand. I haven't taken diagrammatically over here. Citizen is E1. In this case, I'll say this is E1. This is R with respect to the diagram, and this is E2. Okay, citizen has passport. Is it 1-to-1? Is it 1-to-1? Yes, ma. Is it 1-to-1 or no? Yes, because every citizen will have only one passport and every passport is given to a single citizen only. So no two citizens will have similar passport or vice versa. Fine. So this way, I'm going to work with the concept of one-to-one cardinality. So it can be represented by a directed edge towards the entity, or on the link, you can directly put one. The second one is one-to-many relationship. An entity in E1 is associated with any number of entities in E2. An entity in E1 is associated with any number of entities in E2, and an entity in E2 is associated with at most one entity in E1. I hope the definition is clear. See, Amma, E1 is associated with any number in E2, but E2 is associated with only one in E1. So what I told you, on the one side, I have to have a directed edge over here. I'll be having only one directed edge. This is the one side, or you can put a one over here, a digit one over here. And many side, you can put M, or you can leave it as it is, or you can put a star. Anything is fine. One to many relationship. This is the meaning. E1 side is one, E2 side is many. Now, see, I'm taking an example. E1 is a citizen, E2 is a mobile. So one citizen can have any number of mobiles, or any number of mobiles can be had with one citizen. So clearly explained over here, one citizen has more than one mobile number. Any problem with that? So E1 is citizen, E2 is mobile. That is a relationship that is existing. That is a relationship that is existing. Just try to understand this. I'll just give you a minute. Is it clear, ma? One to many. See, one citizen can have more than one mobile number, and more than one mobile number can be held with a single citizen. So that is the concept I told you clearly. The concept is an entity in E1 is associated with any number of entities in E2, and an entity in E2 is associated with at most one entity. So I can have 0 also, not an issue. But the number is at most 1. And this is the diagrammatic representation. One side is having an arrow, many side is not having an arrow because it is not 1. Here I can put a star or I can put M. Up to you. Is it clear, ma? Please respond. You have any questions? Only one student is in the class, ma? Okay, talking about the next one, many to one. Many to one, an entity in E1 is associated with at most one entity in E2. And an entity in E2 is associated with any number of entities in E1. It is quite opposite to that of what we have done, one to many. So the diagrammatic representation would be this way. Now E2 will be having the directed edge, This becomes the one side, this becomes the many side. Okay, so I'll just use the same example. Here I'll be putting mobile number, here I'll be putting citizen. Any problem with this, ma? Many mobile numbers are held with one citizen, and one citizen is having n number of mobile numbers. Any problem with this? Mobile number held with citizen. Mobile number held with citizen. Now, even over here becomes mobile number. The relation becomes held with, and E2 becomes citizen. Any problem with this? Yes. Okay, fine. So many mobile numbers are associated with a single citizen, and a single citizen can have more than one mobile number. That is the concept of many to one. Now talking about the last one, many to many relationships. Okay, an entity in E1 is associated with any number of entities in E2 and vice versa. An entity in E1 is associated with any number of entities in E2 and vice versa. Then I say that that particular relationship has cardinality ratio many to many. Okay, this is the representation. E1 relation E2. You can put M on top of this link, N on top of this link, or you can leave it as it is. No issues. Or you can put a star over here. So even on this particular link star, on this particular link star, you can put which represents your many to many relationship, or you can have M over here and N over here, which represents many to many. Can you think of an example which is many to many and put it on the chatbot? Think of a relationship which satisfies many to many. If at all you understood the concept, you can easily get an example. Give the relationship which is many to many relationship. Make it fast. How do you satisfy mobile has battery 6U? One mobile will have only one battery, right? Six U. Many people can own a laptop, and one person can have. That is many to one, no, Satvika? I'm talking about many to many. Computer courses to student. Okay, fine. Course has students. Fine. Okay. Can I take an example, the working example like faculty, teachers, students, ma? That should be many to many clearly. Faculty, teacher, student. Is that a better example? So many faculties, teachers, many students, and many students are listening to many faculties. I think that sounds clear. Yes or no? Many faculties are teaching many students, and many students are listening to many faculties. Okay, so this is about your cardinality ratio. Just go through the slides once. If at all you have any questions, you ask me, ma. I'm just running through the slides once. Just go through it. Can we take the same example like many citizens have? But the reverse might not be true, no? See, if at all I say a group of people are using the same mobile number, does that suit 7n? So that is a problem, because whenever you are trying to design the ER model, you have to convert that into a relational model. So you have to be specific, because the relationships also need to be converted into tables sometimes. In such cases, you should not lead to confusion. Okay. Now just go through the slides once more. Can we take many employees work in many duty hours? What do you mean by duty hours, ma? How that would be an entity? Anil? Employee is an entity. How you are making hour as an entity? Duty shifts. Yeah, duty shifts is fine. Don't put it as hours, because hours you cannot make it as an entity. Yeah, that is fine. That is fine. You can say session, you can say timings, all that stuff. It's fine. But go with simple examples which are understood by you people and you can mention it easily. Okay. Ma, is the cardinality mapping fine, ma? All of you? Any problems? Now, talking about the next topic, we'll go through something which is called as participation constraints. Participation constraints. Okay, these are divided into two categories. The first one is total participation, and the second one is partial participation. Participation constraints are divided into two categories. One is total, the other one is partial. Okay, talking about the first category, total participation. It specifies that each entity in the entity set must participate compulsorily in at least one relationship instance. Okay, specifies that each entity in the entity set must be a part of at least one relationship instance. Okay, and whenever you want to represent total participation in an ER model, you're going to use a double line between the entity set and the relationship set. So the representation of total participation is a double line between the relationship and the entity. So mean to say that E is totally participating in R. E is totally participating in R. That is the concept. Okay. Now, so see, I'm talking about two entities. One is student, the other one is course. Student enrolled in course. So if at all I do not put this constraint called total participation, then what will happen would be student single line enrolled single line course. That would be the usual notation of ER model. But here I'm talking about the concept of total participation, which is represented using double line, which specifies that every student should be enrolled in a particular course. Every student in this student entity set must be enrolled in any one of the courses. So double line between the entity set student and relationship set enrolled in signifies total participation, and it specifies that each student must be enrolled in at least one course. So there should be a compulsion that each of the student must be enrolled in any of the course. Each of the student must be enrolled in any of the course. That is the concept of your total participation. So total means complete. So complete set of students in the student entity should be enrolled in a single course, or maybe any number of courses based on the interest of the student. But at least one is compulsory. Now talking about partial, the second concept, partial participation, it specifies that each entity in the entity set may or may not participate. So it is quite opposite to that of your total participation. Total says that compulsory. Here it says that it gives you an option. So you may participate or you may not participate in the relationship instance. That is the concept of your partial participation. And it is represented using a single line. Partial participation is represented using a single line between the entity and the relationship. This is the representation of your partial participation. E, partially participating in relation R. Now I'm taking the same example. Student, double line, enrolled in single line course. So this side, it would be total participation. Here it would be partial participation. The condition is every student must be enrolled in a course, but there is no condition that every course should be filled by at least one student. Every course should be filled by at least one student. So if at all I say that C1, C2, C3 are the courses in course entity, there might be chances that C1 might be not taken by any of the student. So that is the concept of your partial participation. But if at all I say S1, S2 and S3 are students, S1 should be enrolled in either C1, C2, C3, S2 should be enrolled in either C1, C2, C3, and so on with respect to student. But that's not the same with respect to course. So this is about your total and partial participation. Total and partial participation. Just go through the slide for 2 minutes. You have any questions, you ask me. Any questions, you can ask Ma. Any questions in participation constraints, Ma? I told you it is divided into two categories. One is total, the other one is partial. What is total? What is partial? How they are represented with an example. Is it clear? Right, Ma. The next topic is whatever the ER models you have designed, using the basic components of your ER model, that needs to be converted into tables. So the next topic would be, after designing an ER diagram using the components of the ER model, you are going to convert the ER models into tables, which is nothing but your relational model, because this particular relational model can be easily implemented by using any of the software, which is nothing but MySQL, Oracle, etc. Okay, now before you actually try to convert an ER model into a table, or maybe you're trying to design a schema for the given ER model, you have to be aware of all the different ways in which you're going to work with an ER model. So maybe it might be the generalization, it might be specialization, aggregation, all these three things, or the basic things. basic relationships that are existing, one-to-one, cardinality, all that stuff you have to be aware of, okay, before you actually convert them. Now, how you are going to convert an ER model into relational model? How we are going to convert an ER model into a relational model? Now see, I've taken a small ER model. The name of the entity is student, and I've got 3 attributes. This is at the basic level. I'm taking an entity called student. Roll number, name, and sex are the 3 attributes. Roll number, name, gender, you can say, whatever. So how do you convert this particular ER model into a relational model or into a table? So CM, I'm talking about the student to be a strong entity set. Why I'm talking about the student entity to be a strong entity set? Because it has an attribute which can form a key attribute. So roll number is a key attribute over here. Roll number is a key attribute over here. Hence, I can say that it is a strong entity set. Or I can say that blindly, this is my ER model. Now, what will happen is whenever you want to convert a particular ER model into a relational model, name of the entity becomes the name of the table you are going to work with. What is the name of the table over here? Sorry, name of the entity over here is student. So student becomes the name of the table, and what are all the attributes? What are all the attributes becomes the columns of the table. For this particular ER model only I'm talking only with respect to this particular ER model, not the other things. There might be few rules that might change with respect to relationships or EER diagrams, all that stuff, it might change. I'm talking with respect to this diagram. So student becomes the name of the table, right? Then I've got something called as roll underscore number, which is a primary key. Hence, it should be underlined over here. This is the schema, comma, name, comma, gender or sex. So this becomes my relational model table for you. So the name of the table or the name of the relation over here is student. It has got 3 attributes. 3 attributes are given over here. These 3, those 3 becomes the columns of the table. So this is the conversion. So what I'm trying to do while I'm trying to convert ER model into a table is attributes of the table will be the attributes of the entity set. Attributes of the table will be the attributes of the entity set. So here these 3 are the attributes which become the attributes of the table. The primary key of the table will be the key attribute of the entity set. What is the key attribute of student entity? Roll number. So for this particular table also, roll number becomes the, I've taken this 1 second more. This has completely become the primary key. I've removed that. Now I have to just underline roll number. Right. Now the primary key of the table will be the key attribute of the entity set. So key attribute of the entity set, student is roll number. Now the name of the table over here is student. So roll number becomes the key attribute of student. So this is the way you are just going to convert an ER model into a relational model. An ER model into a relational model. So more on this, I'll be talking in the next class, how we are going to convert different kinds of ER models, different categories of ER models into relational model. I'll be talking in the next class. So any questions in today's class, please ask me. Yes, Anil. Student is the table, and all the three attributes are the column names. That is right. Perfectly right. Any questions in today's class, ma? Amma, are you able to see any practice lab in the tesslator? Practice lab in the tesslator. Yes? Okay. Okay. Now what you try to do is, you try to use this particular statement, whatever I'm typing on the PPT. In the practice lab, you just try to use this one. Use your roll number. Followed by semicolon. Use your roll number followed by semicolon. So this way, use instead of DBMS D team over here, you have to use your roll number. Okay. Did you write that, all of you? In place of DBMS team, you have to enter your roll number. Use 19BD1A057E. And press enter. After that, try to type this, show tables. Are you doing it, ma? Yes. Okay. Now, try to save these two statements using the save button on the top. I hope you saved it, ma. And then try to run this particular statement using run. This kind of a rocket symbol over there, try to run it, ma. I've run it. And is that giving you any tables? So this is the output I'm getting because I have created a student table. Are you able to run it? Are you able to run it, ma? Please respond, ma. Give your roll number, ma. Use 19BD1A. It should not have any spaces or anything, ma. Surya Teja, you got the output, ma? Amma, use lowercase letters. See how you have created your roll number. I'm sorry, but I haven't. Okay. What is the problem? You have 70. You have got an employee table, ma. Dharantej, I think you might be having an employee table over here. You haven't created anything as of now, Rohit. If at all you do not have any tables, don't worry. But if at all you are able to get an empty thing, that's fine. Rohit? Okay. Now what you try to do is you try to create a small table in your database of your roll number. So I'm just typing a statement over here. Try to create the same thing. Let's see whether you are able to work or not. I'll take down the numbers who are not getting over here and I'll check it out. So try to type the same thing, whatever I'm typing over here. You have to, Satvika, you have to use your roll number first. Use database. Your roll number is your database over here, ma. Your roll number is your database. I told you whenever you want to work with tables, you have to create your database. And your database with your roll number has been created already. So you write a statement called use this way, your roll number, followed by a semicolon. Use your roll number followed by a semicolon. Is that okay, Satvika? $7K. Still anyone has a problem, ma? Rohit 6D. Anyone else who is not able to go into your database? Okay, 20BD 520. 20BD. Your roll number is completely that, ma? Satvika, no sir. Okay, okay. Did you use 19BD1A057K? All in lowercase? Okay. So fine, ma. Then I'll just see whether all the databases with few of you are working with your names, ma. That is one of the problem. Anyway, I'll check it out and we'll work in the next session. Don't worry. I'm just stopping the practice lab over here right now. Don't worry about that. I'll take down your roll numbers. $70. Okay. Anyone else who did not get ma?